Welcome to the Breech Birth Podcast. I'm Sasha Hopkins, private midwife, breech birth educator, and your host. This is a space to hear the real, raw, and powerful stories of women who have experienced breech birth in all its layers. Each episode features honest conversations with women who've experienced breech firsthand, offering insight and reflection. This podcast was born from the knowing that these stories need to be heard to inform, connect, and reclaim the story of breech birth. Whether you're navigating breech birth yourself, supporting others, or simply curious, welcome and thank you.
Hi, Jade. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. So before you start, let's get some context. Where are you located?
We are northwest of Sydney, so Box Hill.
New South Wales, Australia, for those outside of the area. And what year was your breech baby born?
2025, so this year. She came September the 3rd.
Beautiful. And how many weeks were you when you had her?
I was 40 weeks and 5 days.
And what kind of care did you receive during your pregnancy and birth?
So with my first pregnancy, I didn't really receive any care. So this time around, I had an obstetrician, but my second time around, I really wanted to join the MGP program. So I joined up them and received care from one of my local hospitals.
And did you have a vaginal birth or a cesarean?
Cesarean.
Before you jump into your story, would you mind sharing just a little bit of a snapshot about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a mum of two. My first is almost 3. She'll be 3 in February. And she was born in February 2023. I'm a wife and I'm a nurse.
All right, so let's jump into it because you've had a child before your breech baby. Do you want to just give us a small snapshot of what kind of care you had, what kind of birth you had and where?
Yeah, sure. So my first daughter's name's Belle. She was born naturally, which I felt at the time I took advantage of. I went in completely blindsided, not knowing anything. I was 26 at the time. I'm 29 now. And she was measuring quite big. So that was a concern for my obstetrician. Leading towards the end of my pregnancy, she was in the 90th percentile. I also felt that a lot in my back. And he did recommend an induction, which I was all for at the time. And we had her 39 weeks and 3 days or something like that. And she ended up measuring 4 kilos and 10 grams. So pretty big bubby. She was delivered vaginally with vacuum, and I did have an epidural at the time as she became tachycardic. I'm not too sure why. Her heart rate went up, but it was an assisted delivery with her. But yeah, big bubby. So it was all good. I healed well.
Yeah, great. And so you fell pregnant with your next, you said that she was 3, so about 3 years between, or 2.5 even.
Yeah, so we started trying after our wedding last year. She was 18 months at the time and we felt pregnant. I got my positive test a week before Christmas last year. So that was a nice little gift from Santa Claus.
And so after your first experience, were you happy with that care or did you look for something different with this new one?
I did want to look for something different. I heard a lot of people having midwives at the time and being a part of programs. And not that I was unhappy with my obstetrician, but I did want a different type of care just to try it out, have more of a woman's touch, someone that works within the hospital. So that's what MGP provided for me. Yeah.
And did you self-refer? Did you need your GP to refer?
I asked about it with my local GP and then she sent a referral to my local hospital, which contacted me and went from there. So that was roughly when I was around, I want to say 16 weeks pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah. That's when you got contact from MGP?
Yeah.
And so what did that care look like?
It was good. I think it was the monthly appointments, I want to say, at the beginning. And then they would measure your belly and talk to you about any fears and birth plans and made sure you were fit, well and healthy every appointment. If you had any concerns with birth, primarily I did want to join because with my first birth, my induction had led to, I was induced with my first. That's completely what I forgot to tell you. And that led to quite an intense birth, as many women probably know. Syntosis, no joke. That led to an epidural, and I birthed on my back, and I fractured my tailbone. So that's something I really wanted to avoid and try and go as natural as possible with Audrey. Yeah, so that was my main concern, and I was really for a natural water birth, not induced, despite her weight as well. I was ready and prepared to push despite the weight. They provided a lot of support in what I wanted with this second time round.
And were those appointments in your home, at a clinic, bit of both?
They do come to your home, but you can also have them at the hospital if it's easier as well. So I did a bit of A and B.
And I sometimes get told from a lot of women with MGP, they sometimes cycle with a few midwives, or they end up with the one midwife they haven't met at birth. What did that look like? Was there a team? I'm assuming there's usually a team.
They come in pairs. I never met the other wife. I just had mine the whole way through and at birth, which I was really lucky.
Great.
She actually gave me a day off, which was really, really sweet.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how did you feel during your pregnancy?
I felt good. Yep. I was as good as expected. I had a relatively normal pregnancy, no gestational diabetes or anything like that. I was a bit nauseous up until, the average amount of time. So around the 14-week mark, I started to feel a bit better. Yeah. And I did get my glucose test actually, which was different to my first daughter. I actually ended up passing out, which was super fun. So it's just funny. Every pregnancy is so different. I wasn't positive or anything with my diabetes, but my body didn't respond to it very well this time around.
And so this, obviously, baby was Breech at some point. When was that discovered?
So went in for my 28 scan, and she was on track, measuring beautifully as well, around the 2.5 mark. So I was reassured I wasn't going to have another big baby, which was nice to hear. And then I had my 34-week scan, and she had flipped. So she was head up, and the midwife at the time was not too concerned because we still had 6 weeks roughly to go. So she did recommend though another scan around that 36-week mark, because from that moment on, we did need to do a backup plan. The local hospital that I was with MGP with, they don't support breech births. So she need to get the ball rolling if in the event, it did not turn. So we planned for another ultrasound at 36 weeks. And if she still were to be head up, which she was, she said that we would most likely have to transfer to another hospital where there is a team specifically for breech births. Otherwise, if I don't want to be transferred there, it would be a planned cesarean, which I was not for. I am super keen on having more kids, maybe one more. And just with cesarean, I just didn't want to have anything long term to have to worry about. I really was so focused on just having a natural birth. So 36 weeks came around, and yes, she's still head up. Before they actually transferred me to Breech team, they said that they wouldn't transfer me until I tried an ECV. So I had to go home. Yeah. It was sort of a little bit like...
That's coercion.
A little bit, yeah. Wasn't really nice, but at the time I'm like, look, I am willing to try everything. I went home and I did my research, and I spoke to my husband, and we weighed up the pros and cons, and I said, look, we'll just give it a go. I did have a friend that worked at my local hospital where the ECV was being performed, and she did ask me who was going to do it, and I told her who, and she said that they were great. And 90% of the time, all babies turn with that person. So I was, gaining a lot of support from my local hospital, even though it felt like a little bit of like, they won't let me go unless I try this. I still, in a way, supported. It was a funny feeling. So I went in, and this was at 38 weeks. We did this. They did the first attempt.
Did they give you a muscle relaxant at all?
Yes, they did. Yes.
Yeah.
So they monitored me for a good hour before the ECV brought me in and gave me the uterine relaxer, which I felt fine with. I know sometimes the side effects of that can be increased heart rate, but I felt pretty okay. Then they attempted the first turn, and we did think that she had turned. We put the ultrasound on my belly, and she was still head up. So he laid me a little bit sort of upside down on the bed, and they said, we're going to do it one more time. And it took about 30 seconds, but wasn't pleasant. I know some women are like, no, it's quite gentle. Mine was not gentle. It felt like a big Chinese burn on my belly. It was really painful. I was squeezing, and luckily it didn't last any longer than 30 seconds. But the second time round, she did go with it and was head down. So I was in happy tears at that moment because I didn't have any expectations. So when she did turn head down, I was really, really happy. And I was like, yay, I get to have my water birth, natural. We're back on track. With this pregnancy, I didn't even think about breech births. You hear about so many other complications, and I've heard of breech, but didn't think it ever happened to me. I mean, the percentage is so small. When she was breech, it really did put things into perspective of how there is such a gap in the industry for women to be able to birth naturally, as not many people are taught this at universities. And it's very scary. I think there's a massive stigma around it. And I didn't realize that until obviously it happened to me. So she was down and I cried and I was like, yay. But they monitored me for the next hour to make sure she was happy. And her heart rate was going up and down. And I was like, oh, what's she doing? I didn't feel anything, maybe because the uterine relaxer was still sort of working. I'm not too sure. Well, it turns out the whole time within that hour, she was turning back. I did not feel her turn back at all. Back up within the hour. So they came in, they ultrasound, and she was head up again. And I was like, starting from square one, which is fine. But now I will be transferred to a breech team, which I was very excited for still, because these people are obviously doing breech births every day. Supportive, well educated, and I was very excited to meet them. So I seen them probably a few days later.
And I just want to jump in and share, you don't have to be referred to the breech clinic, so you Sydney in New South Wales, and there's a well-known breech clinic there. You can self-refer, just for anyone listening.
Yeah, so they were great, absolutely fantastic, gave me hope, gave me support very, very much. Yeah, you can do this. Obviously, my wishes were birth naturally, as we were innately meant to do. When I did bring it up in conversation with a lot of other women, when they'd ask how far along, do you have a birth plan, etc., I do feel I was proud to share that she was breech in a way, so that I could follow with, the question would always be, oh, do you have a cesarean date booked in? That was always everyone's response. And so I guess I brought it up a lot to then be like, nope, I'm birthing her naturally. I'm going to push her out. Very excited. And there was always a lot of fear in everyone's eyes when I would say that. I think a lot of people have a perception of that the body's bigger than, like, it's harder to birth. Doing all that I had done, I had listened to podcasts, watched 1,001 videos, and heard lots of feedback. I joined as well the Breech Birth Australia on Facebook, which were really, really helpful. There's a lot of supportive women and stories on there. And a lot of them are saying that, it was even easier than a head down baby. So I had a very positive mindset for it.
Correct. And I didn't ask before, like in that 34 to 38 week mark, did you do anything to try and flip baby yourself, alternative things?
I did. So we did a bit of spinning babies. I laid upside down a lot. I did the warm bath with the ice pack on top maybe a couple of times. I even, with my finger and my hand, I'm trying to move her, annoy her myself. Nothing worked. And, a lot of women swear by it, but I am also the type, I think it's just a wives' tale. I think if they want to flip, they will flip. And I did everything in my power. We had a failed ECV. I also, in the back of my mind, was thinking, maybe she is not flipping for a reason. What if it's something to do with her cord or my uterus, or I'm not sure, but I just think everything is going to happen the way it's meant to. So I kind of didn't try too much harder after that, and I just let her be.
Yeah. You transferred to the Breech clinic. They were really positive, and so you're feeling good and positive about the birth. And what happened from there? How did labour start?
So had a scan at maybe it was around the end of the 38th week when I met them, because they just wanted to triple check she was still head up and she was measuring okay. Obviously anyone that's done their research on Breech, you can't be too small on the small side. You can't be too big either. And previously my daughter being 4 kilos and 10 grams, just over that mark, they wanted to ensure that she was the average good size baby. Now she was at 38 weeks measuring, I think again in the 90th percentile. So she'd really bulked up within those few weeks since my 34 weeks I had my scan. So I was like, oh, time to go on a diet. I think I just feed my babies too well. Yeah, I just was eating so much. So she definitely was measuring bigger again, which, the Breech team did say, no, you are fine. You've birthed a big baby before. Even though she's measuring a little bit bigger, we fully believe you can push her out as you did with your first. And again, I regained confidence. I was like, okay, this is fine. And we've only got like 2 weeks left. Like, how much more can she gain? I think at that time she was roughly 3.5 at my 38-week scan, 3.5 kilos. So it got to 40 weeks and I was trying everything in my power also to induce labor, just so she didn't get too big. I was eating pineapples. I went for a run, not like me at all.
Oh my goodness, a run at 40 weeks pregnant, far out.
Oh my gosh. And I did it at 8 p.m. so no one could see me. Ran up
No
the street.
witnesses.
Absolutely not. I was really, really getting sore, really tired. So yeah, I was trying a lot. People were like, have a lot of sex. And at that point, I don't know how anyone has that drive in them, but we tried. Again, I just think these are all wives' tales because she just did not budge. I went in at 40 weeks exactly back to the Breech team, and we had a cervical examination to see if we could do a stretch and sweep, bring something on. And at that time, I was only 1 centimeter. They said, look, we don't recommend really at this stage going past 41 weeks. You are measuring quite big. And we want to give you the best chance to birth her vaginally. And so it was 40 weeks and 5 days that they had offered me an induction. And I was very, very apprehensive. I was in tears yet again. I didn't want an induction. I really just wanted to go naturally. Looking at all the videos and doing all this research, and I just really didn't want it to go into an emergency anything but via induction. And I also wanted to birth on all fours. I wanted gravity to help me, and I didn't want to be bed bound. So I had a lot to weigh up, and it just felt at this point I tried everything. I copped a lot of negative responses from the world, as lack of education will do. And yeah, I just felt at this point, I'm like, all right, well, I don't really have an option if she's measuring big. So they gave me their one and only option. You can't have a balloon with a Breech baby. The Breech team only offered, what's it called? Prostin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had with my first daughter, I had Cervidil to ripen my cervix. And
So just want to explain that for people so they know the difference. So Cervidil is it's like a bit of tape with a string. So it's kind of like putting a tampon in. It sits in behind the cervix and you can pull it out if your body doesn't respond well. Whereas Prostin is a gel that absorbs into the body. And so once it's in, you can't remove it. Sorry, keep going.
So 40 weeks and 4 days was a Tuesday. I had agreed to go into the birthing unit and receive system. Simply for the fact that they also had explained to me that being my second pregnancy, you can actually labor after Proston quite naturally. Your body can go into labor. So I had a bit of like, oh, okay. And I was given the Proston at around 8:10 that Tuesday evening. So that was the 2nd of September. And I woke up at 2 a.m. with contractions every 5 minutes apart, which they said you would contract anyway from it, but they can die down and then you can receive a second dose of Proston 5 hours after. So 2 a.m. hit and I didn't need that second dose. My body was going into labor. And at that time, I did have doctors come in and sort of give me a bit of endone and start me on a drip so that I didn't birth baby that night until the breech team was in the next day. Slowed down my labor, which I was a little bit confused.
Why are we
because
doing an induction?
my body was responding, and then I felt there was a bit of fear, and then I didn't feel confident. If I said, what if the baby comes? And they said that there are doctors on call that will come in that are experienced with breech, but not your specific breech team is available until tomorrow morning. And I said, okay, well, no worries, and I know it fully, I'm in the right to decline and things like that. I did try and give them my full faith in knowing what they were doing was for best for me and baby. So it did slow it down a little bit, but my body wanted to do what it wanted to do and had a little sleep, woke up at 6 a.m. with my contractions being back every 5 minutes apart again. And I was pretty much in the early stages of labor at around 9:10. Had a cervical examination and I was still 1 centimeter, which is always disappointing to hear when you sort of feel contractions and things like that. Started bouncing the ball. My birth comb, I had my TENS machine on, I had my salt lamp. I was very prepared and excited that I was going into labor and was able to utilize everything that I had initially planned for. I was bouncing on my ball and my waters broke at 9:30 on their own, 9:30 a.m., which was really exciting because I didn't have that with my first. So that was really cool to feel, an experience. She had done a little poop inside me, so my waters were a little bit green. And just kept watching. It was very, very weird feeling. From that moment on, they got really intense, my contractions. So I was just trying to pull through it. Initially, my birth plan was obviously to have a water birth, but you can't. They sort of, the hospital, they don't really want you to do that because they want to be able to watch the baby come out in the event of they need to intervene or something. But I still wanted to get in the water. I heard this mum talk one time on a podcast that the nice because it acts as a barrier where no one really can touch you and things like that. So it was just nice to have a bit of me time in the bath. So I labored for a while. I think it was 11:30. I had another cervical examination and I was still 1 centimeter, which again, disheartening to hear. We moved into a bigger room with a bath. I had my birth photographer come, which was really beautiful. She got some really beautiful photos of me in labor. Sort of lose track of time here, but I did get in the bath around the 3 o'clock mark. At this point, my contractions were about 3 minutes apart and they were becoming quite intense. So I'm glad I got to the bath at this point because anything after that, I was actually, I think, nearing transition. I got up and hopped in the bath and it was beautiful. It was so nice. It was warm, but I think that people tell you to move during labor and it helps. I definitely think it helped because my contractions got even more intense in the bath. And for one of them, I actually felt the urge to push. The midwives got me out and we had a cervical examination done. And I was still only 1 centimeter.
Do they give you any more feedback about how low baby had come and like the thickness of your cervix?
Still high up she was, because they were having to reach quite far back.
Yeah, okay.
Still. And I just knew even before they told me with how they were trying to find my cervix, I just knew and being in so much pain, I was like feeling like it was my first birth all over again. With my first, I was 3 centimeters for such a long time before we got to 10. And so hearing below 5, I think, is just so disheartening when your body's working so hard. So at that point, they recommended Syntocin, and I was really against that. Again, as I think I mentioned with my first daughter, I had that, which led to epidural and a back birth. And they did say to me, though, that as of the 1st of September, protocols within New South Wales had changed with how many mils they give you per hour. And they said, we just think that we need to give your body something extra. You're just having so many contractions, but nothing's happening. So this may dilate you. And, at this point, I'm obviously in so much pain and I'm just feeling like I'm not progressing. And protocol had changed to such a small amount per hour. And I don't want to say the dosage because I will get it wrong, but it's really, really micro now. And within 15 minutes, I'm not sure even if it works that quickly. Being such a small mil per hour, I went from 1 to 8 centimeters in 15 minutes.
Wow.
And that was purely evident by I was on all fours and I had a bit of like a bloody show and I was pushing involuntarily. And so then they checked me and I had gone to 8 centimeters. So my body was working hard and very quickly at this point. And also my whole body and mind was just in an entirely different world at this point. And I think a lot of women would call that transitioning, maybe, to the 10 centimeters. And I did say to my husband, when I think I can't do it anymore, or I think I'm dying, please look at me and tell me that I'm nearly there because I'll be in transition. And I explained to him and I don't know if anyone at the time told me it's okay, you're not dying. Maybe they told me, maybe they didn't, but I really thought at the time I was not going to make it. They were really intense, was, making these innate animal sounds. And it was beautiful in a way, now that I look back on my videos and my photos. But I did request some pain relief. I said maybe a bit of morphine. I don't know. I need something because I was not having any breaks between my contractions either. And then I got another contraction and I was like, you know what? Don't worry about the morphine. Like, I think I need an epidural. My body is just not relaxing enough and I don't feel like I'm going to progress, especially when they told me I was 8 centimeters. They did say that she was still higher at that time. It was the best decision, I think, for me. I did request a walking epidural, which doesn't necessarily mean you can walk, but I wanted to be able to birth on my knees. Yeah. Definitely wanted to get off my tailbone and prevent what happened the first time. So it was good. Epidural did not hurt at all. She did a beautiful job, the anaesthetist, and it worked really, really well. I was still able to move my legs and I was just able to relax. With my first birth, the minute I got the epidural with her, I dilated straight to 10. And so I thought maybe this time, okay, I'm only 8 centimeters too often. I'm going to push her out soon. I'm going to and the minute I got the epidural, she became tachycardic and her heart rate was normal at 140, but it went straight to 180. So a little bit confusing as to why that happened.
Normally it's the other way around, like dropping, not going up.
It is. So my daughter, my first daughter, she became tachycardic as well, which is why it was an assisted vaginal delivery with the suction and the episiotomy. So both my girls just had a high heart rate at the time of birth. And I'm actually going to put it down to all the cervical examinations that I had. From the moment of Proston, the administration of the Proston, this isn't evidence-based, obviously, but I had around 9 cervical examinations for my birth. And I just, I think that's just a lot. And I understand that they have to track sometimes, but at the point of when her heart rate went up, I think I had around 9. So it was just too many. And there was also different people doing it. Whether they did at one stage say that my cervix was becoming like I went back down to 7 or 6 centimeters, and that was because they felt a bit of swelling. But whether or not that's entirely true.
Sometimes the swelling, if you're getting the urge to push, when you push against a cervix, it's not ready yet. I don't know how much research there is to support that, but that's the belief that it can cause some swelling.
Yeah.
And there is some research to show that cervixes can close before the baby's out as well, or get smaller to what they were before, depending on your environment and how you're feeling. And yeah.
I have heard that. And just obviously with how much I was pushing as well, I think that's why epidural was a good call because I was able to relax. She became tachycardic, and it's just so disheartening because at the time that I was 8 centimeters and I had a bit of a bloody show, and I did look back at one point and everyone was there as if she was about to come, and I was getting really excited even though I was in a lot of pain. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have a baby any minute and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to push her out. But yeah, I just couldn't go any longer really without the epidural. And so I do feel there's a lot of question marks on why her heart rate went up. And it is what it is, but they tracked that for a good couple of hours, which is a fair amount of time. I felt good within that amount of time before they came to me and told me that maybe cesarean would be the best option for now. And obviously it was a very disheartening, hard decision to make. It was just me and my husband in the room while everyone left so we could actually really talk about it. And it wasn't about how I wanted to birth anymore. It was obviously just making sure she was okay. And yeah, so we obviously decided to go ahead with that. And that was around 6:30. And then she was born at 7:28 p.m. So about an hour later.
Yeah. And how was that process of transitioning from birth suite to theatre? Because this is a whole new experience for you as well. You hadn't had a cesarean before.
No. So I was a bit nervous, but I was so tired by this point. I was like, I'm not leaving this hospital without my baby. Like, let's just meet her. I'm done fighting. I tried an ECB. I tried spinning babies, as I told you. I tried everything, and I tried the labor that I wanted. And I did. I labored so well, I feel. And it just got to the point where I'm like, he's going to do what she wants to do. And she doesn't want to come out of my vagina. And that's okay. So I sort of just gave in and was like, I'm going to meet my baby soon. The team were fabulous. My midwives were amazing. And one of the Breech team healthcare practitioner, he was the main surgeon. So having him be a part of the Breech team plus my surgeon was really special as well. He was a familiar face and I trusted him, and everyone around me was like, you've made the right decision. So it was a nice transition. I wouldn't call it entirely an emergency. It didn't seem rushed or horrible or traumatic or anything like that.
And did Bud come to you while you're in theatre? Did you get some skin to skin?
Yes, she did. Yes. The minute she was born, my husband cut her cord, which was really nice. I think usually in a real emergency, the husbands don't get to do that, I've heard.
Do you mean still attached to you, or they cut it and taken to baby to the resuscitator and cut it?
Yes, I think. I'm not entirely sure, actually. I just know he cut the cord at some point.
Yeah. So normally in a cesarean, the surgeon will cut it long and then take baby over to the resuscitator, and then dad cuts it again to the length that you actually want it.
I think what he said had happened was Audrey came out. I could be wrong here, but they cut it, and then it could have been the way you just said, but maybe he said that they half cut it, and when they took it over, like my placenta came out and he cut the rest of it.
Yes, that's what they normally do. It would be very unusual to let him cut it straight from your belly because it's a surgical procedure. And so unless he's scrubbed up.
Fair enough. Okay, yes.
So he cut the cord and then Bub came over for some cuddles?
Yeah, she did.
Did she get to stay with you until all the way through to recovery? Did she have to come off you at any time?
So by this stage, I had around 650 ml blood loss. Yeah, unsure why. And also because of that, I also had a bit of tachycardia myself. And also I was febrile. I had a temperature. So I was wheeled off to recovery and was treated on sepsis pathway as they weren't sure what was happening. So Bub was with me, yes, to answer your question, as she was wheeled out with me. Yeah, there was no complication her at all. She came out completely happy and healthy, and yeah, really, really good that she was able to stay with me. So that was really nice.
Amazing. And I just want to jump back in that you said the words I gave in. I think just being able to reflect, and it was probably more of a surrender. And because we have our intentions and expectations, but at the end of the day, we can't necessarily control everything. And being able to surrender is a really beautiful thing, whatever that looks like, and accepting that she is choosing her path and how she arrives. And I think that's really beautiful to share.
Yeah, yeah. And I have heard in, Chinese tradition that a breech baby is upright because they are breaking old traditions and creating new ones, and they're setting their own path. So I'm like, it's breech. This is what she's meant to do. She's meant to, not listen to her mummy, creating her own path, and she's going to do what she's going to do. So definitely surrendered and let her do what she wanted to do. And that's just been born the way she wanted. And that meant that she was happy and healthy. So that's really all that matters.
And so what did your recovery look like? Breastfeeding, how long were you in the hospital for?
I was in the hospital for a good 4 days. Day 2 was definitely worse when all the, the pain meds had worn off. And so breastfeeding went well. She latched straight away. So it was nice to have her with me all the time. I have to worry about that aspect of motherhood, when I'm trying to recover from something that was not ideally my plan. So she did well. But my recovery, it was such a shock and it was painful. I also felt being in hospital, the hospital's apprehensive to give you medication. I was like, you feel a bit like bad asking for pain meds because I'm in pain. I just know when I fractured my tailbone with my first daughter, the midwife or nurse was like, what's really, really good? Panadol and Nurofen. I'm like, I've fractured my tailbone, but okay, no worries. So yeah, there's that stigma around pain medication, but you know what? I was like, stuff it. Obviously, I'm going to ask for it. And I have a lot of friends that have gone down the cesarean pathway, and they just said to keep it up every 5-6 hours before you start to feel that pain again. So that was really good to utilize what you have and who you have until you get better. And I really made sure I did that so that, you can be in a good mental mind state as well. I didn't want to develop any postpartum depression or like think of my story as traumatic. So I think pain management really helps, and doing what you can. Getting up and walking was hard, but they recommend it. Went home on that day 5 and it was horrible. My daughter brought home influenza A from preschool. So she was really unwell that afternoon that I got home, and she had temperatures, and I said to my husband, my anxiety, I cannot stay here. I think I have to go stay with my mum with her. So I did for a good 10 days, steer clear of my first daughter until she got a bit better. My husband also caught it. So luckily I didn't stay for too long in my house. But that was also very good. It felt horrible at the time to be away from my family. It's not the start you want, especially the unplanned way of birthing her went. So it just felt like it was like one, not bad thing, but I guess unexpected thing after the next. So not the beginning I had hoped for, but we came home eventually. And by this stage, I was able to do a little bit more physically. So at least I was able to, not meant to, but I got my daughter and give her a cuddle. Yeah, we had bonded well with breastfeeding, and we had that time, that one-on-one time. So I guess it was like a blessing in disguise in a way to get that time.
And did she need any body work herself? Sounds like breastfeeding went pretty smoothly. She didn't have any tightness in her neck. I know sometimes with breech babies, they can be a bit tight in the neck.
No, not at all. She hasn't had any issues with her neck.
Amazing. And we're obviously still breastfeeding, so that's obviously going well. That's good.
It's going well. So she ended up weighing, which I don't think I mentioned, but she ended up weighing 4 kilos and 60 grams. So 50 grams bigger than my first, which is okay. I think I still would have been able to push that out.
Absolutely. I've seen a 5-kilo baby pushed out. You would have been fine.
Yeah. We're designed to we're women. We can do it. Absolutely. I believe that.
You make babies perfectly sized for your body.
Yeah, that's it. So I think she lost that weight pretty quickly, obviously, that I wasn't feeding her with make muffins every morning. And she did take a while to regain that back, maybe 2.5 weeks, but no one was really concerned. She was sleeping and her output was really good and good looking baby. So that was all fine. I think she's just a smaller body type and she's long too. She's 55 centimeters at birth.
Wow. Amazing.
Maybe.
So you shared some resources already that you use. Is there anything in particular that you would recommend to a woman that's listening at the moment that has a breech baby on board?
The Great Birth Rebellion is something I always listened to. They're amazing, really educational, really well spoken, and unbiased as well. They touch on very controversial topics. I think they're very just open to all topics they come across. They're there to, I guess, interpret everything for anyone that's listening.
Yeah, simplifying the research for us. It's great.
Yeah. Exactly. So I found them really easy to listen to, and there was a lot of great topics on breech, and then also bigger babies and smaller babies was one of the top episodes, which obviously I was on the bigger baby side, and it was nice to listen to that. With new research, 4 kilos isn't even that big anymore, which is something I learned. Yeah. I know my podcasts were my main ones, but Breech Without Borders have a lot of beautiful raw births. There's over like 100, and I think I watched all of them, but really beautiful. It's just stunning to see how naturally babies come out breech as well. It's really inspired me and why I wanted to do it so badly as well. Because it's just another physiological way that we can birth. It's just, and it just baffles me so much that a lot of hospitals don't support it.
To wrap things up, what if you could share some words of wisdom with a woman right now that has a breech baby on board, what would you tell her?
I think stay positive, educate yourself, and know that we meant to birth and can birth naturally, whether your baby's cephalic or breech. Don't maybe share too much with strangers or friends even, especially if you don't want to get that feared reaction. I did feel that put me down a little bit sometimes. A lot of people aren't educated on it. They're scared for you. So just do your research and educate yourself. And I think as long as you have confidence within yourself and finding a really good team, whether that's just one midwife that will be there, whether you're home birthing or at a hospital, just to have that support, that knowledge and educate yourself, I think is the best way. I found that I was excited. That's what excited me to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jade, for sharing your story.
That's okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Breech Birth podcast. These stories matter. They stretch what we think we know and bring voice to experiences that need to be heard. I'm so grateful to the women who have shared their experiences with us, raw, real, and full of wisdom. If this episode resonated with you, please follow, share, or leave a review. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Breech Birth Podcast. And if you have a breech story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, may we continue to reclaim the narrative, one story at a time.